Today, we're going to talk about politics. It's my favorite thing to teach. The reason it's my favorite thing to teach is it's in everything. It affects everything. Every situation involves politics. Whether you understand that yet or not, you will. Doesn't matter if you're an artist or a young professional, there are politics all around you. And what I mean by that is every company has politics internally. There's power struggles going on. It doesn't matter if the company has 1,000 employees or they have 3 employees. There are politics. In fact, the way this was taught to me, it was on my first trip to Nashville as a young 20-something, in my first real job in this industry outside of my family's company. I was there to meet as many people as possible. I was in a high-profile position, and I needed to get to know as many people who worked in this industry and as quickly as possible. So I was meeting with a board member of our company, and it was my first time visiting with him. And he looked at me and he said, "2 guys work at a gas station, there's politics." That's all he said for a second, and I thought, okay. And I kind of took it in, and I went, oh yeah, I get it. What he's saying is, look for the politics in everything, because it doesn't matter how small the situation appears to be. There are some politics going on. If you can figure that out, and if you can understand it quickly, you'll be able to maneuver through the industry a lot faster. You will step in less piles, so to speak. You will get through it unscathed, hopefully. So you are entering into a highly, highly competitive industry, and it's going to take a lot more than just textbook knowledge, understanding the business models of a record label or a publishing company. That's all important. But if you don't know how to navigate and how to maneuver and deal with people, then you're going to find yourself at a disadvantage. And let me give you a couple of examples. Artist. Okay, you're going to have doors opened for you, right? You need doors open for you. You need the leg up. You need that favor from someone. What you need to understand politically is that, first of all, no one's doing anything necessarily out of pure kindness. I'm not saying there aren't a lot of kind people out there, but there's usually a reason. There's usually a reason they want to help you. Maybe they see potential in you. Maybe they want to eventually represent you in some way. Maybe they want a percentage of something you're going to earn. You don't really know what that is, but if you know there might be something there, or there's likely something there, then you're trying to figure out the politics behind their reason. So that will serve you well. Don't just go through this blindly and naively, because this is not an industry for naive people. You will be eaten up. So there's one example. As a young professional, if you can understand who the power players are and what strings they pull and who's connected to them as quickly as possible, you will be able to figure out where you need to position yourself. Where do you need to be, literally, physically? Where do you need to show up? Are there events going on? And is there an opportunity to meet some of these people? Maybe it's a conference, maybe it's a charity event, maybe you can volunteer for one of these things if you can't actually buy a ticket to get in. But who do you need to try to get to? Now, you might be asking yourself, okay, that sounds great and I get what you're saying, but how do I know who these people are? How do I get to them? The best way is to turn to the trade magazines, which may or may not be in print anymore, but get a subscription to them. Usually they're free online. So, look to Billboard, look to Polestar, look to Encore. Any of these trade magazines they have like a weekly or daily newsletter, online newsletter. Sign up for it, it's free. Read as much as you can about what's going on in this industry, and get to know the names of who is really running this show, right? So every entertainment city's got their power players, so you need to focus on the city that you're obviously trying to work in, but just get to know who the power players are, who is connected right under them, around them, and figure out how to position yourself as closely to those people as you possibly can. Now, we'll talk about how to seek out opportunities in a different lesson. And There are a million ways, okay? So I know you've heard the phrase, it's who you know. I'm at such a disadvantage because everyone tells me it's who I know, and I don't know anyone. You might not know anyone. I get it. But I'm going to teach you how to figure out who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone, okay? So that is in our networking lesson, because that's what networking is. But sticking with the politics, if you can learn the politics and understand the dynamics of various companies, maybe it's companies you want to work for, that's very important. You go in eyes open and you understand the culture. If you are volunteering and you are trying to help an organization put together a charity event and they ask you to place seating cards at a table, wouldn't it be helpful if you understood who those people were that you were seating at that table? And here's why. If you know that John used to be married to Sally and they had a horrible divorce, and you see both their names on these cards, then you know, don't seat them together. If you have to put them at the same table, at least keep them far apart, right? Or maybe you even bring it to someone's attention and say, should we maybe move one of these to a different table? It's little things like that you would look like a hero if you knew that. I'm going to give you a great personal example of how this was really important in my career. So early on in my career, maybe 3 or 4 years in, I was given the opportunity to put together an entire event honoring some really high-profile songwriters. One of those songwriters was deceased, and his widow and his grown children not only didn't get along, but they had legal battles and fights over the estate. So they were not on speaking terms, and they did not even want to be in the same room together. And so that was something that was brought to my attention, and I'm thankful that it was, because before I reached out to let the family know that we were honoring this gentleman, I had to make a decision. Who was I calling? Was I calling the widow? Was I calling the children? Was I saying we want everybody there, so can you play nice? What was I going to say? So I gave it some thought, and ultimately I contacted the widow first because she actually did have power of attorney over the estate, and she was the one running the estate. So by all rights, she should have been the one contacted. And I made her aware right away that I knew that it was a little touchy. So I asked her how she would like it to be handled. And we had a lovely conversation about it. She was very gracious about it. She said, I would like his children to be there. This would mean a lot to them. And she asked me, a few parameters she asked me to implement just for seating and, when they arrived and things like that. So obviously they didn't want to do press together, and they didn't want to be seated together, that's for sure. And, they kind of wanted to stay on opposite sides of the room. Easy enough. So because I was aware of the politics of that situation, we were able to avoid a major potential train wreck. And it was really easy. So that's just a quickie example of how just understanding the politics of any situation can really help it go much smoother. And, that's going to come up a lot, especially for you young professionals, because you're going to be dealing with a lot of people who are somehow intertwined in this industry. Maybe they were married at one point. Maybe they hate each other's guts. Maybe they're best friends. It's good to know. You're going to have situations like I came up against, where people have had legal battles, and sometimes it won't be family. It'll be two former business partners who, didn't end on good terms. So, and they might be in a lot of rooms together. So it's just always beneficial to understand the politics. Now, I am going to go on in future lessons and tell you about how to utilize politics to your advantage, because what I mean by that is, politics, it's strategy, right? Life is strategy. Life is like a game of chess, literally. And if you can understand how to maneuver and make that next move because you have anticipated the next 3 or 4 moves, and you've anticipated your partner, so to speak, or whatever situation you're up against, what their move might be, you'll get to the win a lot faster. So politics, chess, strategy, critical thinking, they all go hand in hand, and they're all so important when you are dealing with the level of egos and the level of I don't even know the word for it. It's almost unspoken. It's just like, this is an industry that is probably like no other. And it is like a big game of chess. People are in it a lot of times because they love the game of it. That might be the best way to say it. They love the game of it. So if you don't love the game, you might want to consider getting out, because you have to play the game. If you learn how to be a good game player, and I don't mean a playa like you're going to be shady or you're going to be dishonest. I mean, just understand strategy and how every single thing you do will have an effect. There's a cause and effect everywhere. So whatever you do will have an effect on your career somehow. Could be positively, could be negatively, could be neutral as far as you know, but could be affecting something behind the scenes that you're unaware of. Again, another reason to understand politics, because politics is not tangible. It's reading between the lines. It's all the gray area in between. And it is something you don't quite learn how to do until you live it, but you need to live it with your eyes open. So if your eyes are open and you keep it in mind that every situation has politics, you'll pause before you make a decision, before you say something in front of somebody. You'll stop and think to yourself, what's the situation here? What are the politics involved? Should I keep my mouth shut? Maybe. Should I speak up? Maybe. Should I maybe speak privately to someone first and feel them out about it before I just speak in front of the group? Probably. All those little things. So we'll talk about it more. We will certainly have many examples where politics comes into play. And the biggest one is probably when I talk about favors. You know, favors and politics go hand in hand. So we have a whole lesson on favors and how to utilize those favors to your advantage. So again, remember, two guys work at a gas station, there's politics. Keep that in mind. It'll serve you well like it has me.